Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. I hope that everyone is doing well, and I hope that everyone can hear me okay. Hello, Maurice, how are we doing today? So, I want to mention this first of all, because it's almost a little bit of a milestone. So, this tonight is stream 99 by my count. So I've done 99 of these. And next week is going to be my 100th stream. So it's a little bit of a milestone. And to celebrate, if he's available, I haven't spoken to him about it yet. I was thinking that we'll bring Maurice on, because I've been talking about bringing Maurice on for something that Maurice has been working on. So I figure that we should do that next week. So if Maurice, if you're around next week, this time, how about we try and bring you onto the stream and we can chat about what you've been working on. Now, I know we had an issue when we tried to bring a deal on for a stream a couple of weeks ago, but I think we can get around that now. So that's the plan, assuming that he's available. So that'll be next week. Who else? Oh, Nils. Hello, Nils. Good to see you virtually. Anyway, and Kim. Hello. How are we doing today? I think I can manage next week. Let's discuss. Let's do that. I still have a reminder in my Slack to talk to you about it. I haven't forgotten. It's still there. So this is me talking to you about it. Okay. So the plan for tonight is it's a little bit of a continuation of what we did last week. Last week we spent a bit of time going through how to take an existing project. In my case, it was Cake.net version detector. We took that and we tried to update it to the latest version, the latest pre-release version of Cake.Recipe, just to try and figure out exactly what is required in order to do that transition. So what we did while we were doing that was we were updating this list of check marks in this issue, and since then both Kim and Nils have added a few things to that, and I know that Nils has been converting Cake.7zip to use the latest version of Cake.Recipe, so that's a good bit of in the wild testing. And I know that Kim has been doing the same with Cake.transifex and I think a couple of other things. So out of that, there are a couple of things that we need to fix before we can release. I was just talking to Kim about it in Slack before coming on stream tonight. So there's at least one issue that we need to fix with an upstream dependency. And I'm going to work on getting that done. Kim saying he's also been doing Cake.CodeCov and Cake.Warp as well. So these are battleground testing, if you like, of the soon-to-be released version of Cake.Recipe. So the first thing that I wanted to look at, and the first thing I need folks in the chat room to verify, is that I'm not going mad, right? So it's not a cake recipe for. It could well be a recipe for disaster. It could definitely be. So in doing the upgrade to Cake.Recipe, one of the things that we're kind of guiding folks towards is to, in addition to maybe publishing using AppVeyor, also use GitHub Actions for doing the build process to allow you to build on Mac, on Windows, and on Linux. Now, in doing that, I worked with Kim to take all of the environment variables, the secret parts of the build process, and move them over into GitHub secrets within the Cake Contrib organization. Now, that took slightly longer than I would have liked, and I'm going to put my hand up and say why that was. Okay, so in a previous version of the AppVeyor setup, I had used the environment variables within the AppVeyor UI. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to put in a plain text environment variable, and it allows you to click a little padlock button, and that little padlock button then encrypts that variable and stores it securely in the ether, right? But it also allows you to click that little padlock button again to see what the plain text version of that. Really useful if you need to get that back again. Now, at some point in the not too long ago past, I decided to change away from using the environment variables UI for all of the secrets because they were per project. So every project had to have those environment variables set up. Now, with over 200 projects, that became almost unmanageable until we created a synchronization script. So it would run through a bit of code, and it would set all those environment variables up when we had a new project come into the Cake Quantum organization. Great. However, AppVeyor then provided this functionality of a global YAML file. So rather than having to do it on a per project basis, you could set up a global YAML file that all projects would derive from. So I took all of those environment variables from each project and consolidated them into a global YAML file, leaving the 2 or 3 variables per project alone. Now, some of you might know where this is going, but in creating that global.yaml file, I had to encrypt the variables and put them into the global YAML file. Now, when I did that, it doesn't actually give you the ability to decrypt the variable. So that little padlock button that I had in the environment variables, it's not there when you move it over to the global YAML file. Now, I think Nils sees where I'm going with this. So when I came to try and take those variables out of AppVeyor to put into GitHub secrets, I couldn't do it. Now, I had most of them. Now, we as the Cake team have a shared LastPass setup, so almost all of the variables were in there. The ones that weren't in there, for some reason, I don't know why, were the Twitter. There's 4 variables that you need for when you're sending tweets automatically. There's the consumer key, the consumer secret, the access token, and the access token secret. Now, I didn't have those. So what I did within the Twitter developer settings was I reset these to another new value. And I thought I'd put them into both GitHub Actions and AppVeyor correctly. But when Nils the other day went to publish a new version of Cake.7zip, the tweet didn't go out when it was a successful release. The message to Gitter went out correctly, but the message to Twitter didn't go out. Now, really annoyingly, Cake.Twitter reported that it sent it successfully, but it never got there. So what I've got in this little Cake script that I've got here is a little test. Now, the way I was doing this earlier, you might have seen some tweets that went out. So I basically wanted to test Cake.Twitter to make sure that something wasn't broken there. So I took... why is that asking me to retry as admin? Failed to save insub... That's weird. That's strange, but okay. The first test I did was this one. So if I go into my terminal and I say build.ps1, then what's happened here? Something weird going on with my VS Code. I've updated some add-ins, and I'm wondering whether that is why it's messing with me. But I'm right in saying that I've just sent out a tweet saying testing 1, 2, 3. anyone can validate that on the chat room. If someone in the chat room could validate that I'm not seeing things, that there's a testing 1, 2, 3 tweet from my account. I saw it, so Nils saw it. Beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, right? So I'm then going to change this again to be my other task, which is Cake.Contrib, right? And if I save that, I'm going to close VS Code after I've done this little test. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's needed. I'm going to have to. That wasn't needed before I did what I did earlier. Maurice, don't mess with me. I saw it and Nils saw it. That's enough for me, right? So if I run the Cake.Contrib one, we should see a tweet, same tweet, testing 1, 2, 3, but we should see it come from the Cake.Contrib account. So eyes on Twitter. Eyes on Twitter. It goes out, and there it goes. So I'm going to open this up on the stream this time, so that twitter.com Cake.Contrib, right? Testing 1, 2, 3, 17 seconds ago. I brought it up in the stream. Everybody can see it. I'm not going mad. Nils isn't going mad. Everybody's happy, right? So this is working. This was working locally. So that led me to think, so what's going on? Why was it not working on the... I'm going to delete that one while we're here, right? Manipulating footage. No. Lost my train of thought there. So that let me... just before the stream, I did this. I was like, oh, this is all working. Why is it not? Why is it fake news? So it was all working. I was like, what's going on? So I went into the global.yaml file within AppVer, and I re-encrypted the secrets, and I did a comparison between the two. Now, I don't know how or why or what I did, but my ability to copy and paste was broken when I set those variables in the encrypted appver.yaml file, global YAML file. So I recopied and pasted the values, the encrypted values from the known working thing back into the encrypted appver.global YAML file. And I think it's all going to work. So Nils, if you've got another release coming up, I would appreciate if you could let me know whether you get the equivalent of this tweet here for your next version of Cake.7zip, or Kim, if you do a release of one of yours, that would be good as well. So I think I fixed the issue, and it was my inability to copy and paste that failed. So I think that's fixed, right? So the other thing I wanted to mention, and when YAM publishing is fixed. So the YAM publishing is related to the issue you sent me in Slack, correct? With the Kudu client. Is that right? Okay, perfect. Good. Okay. The reason that I think that something's broken here, although I'm not entirely clear on, the thing I've just enabled, is it this way? In the new release of VS Code, I don't know if you've seen this, but the ability to synchronize settings is now enabled. It's still in preview, but there used to be a VS Code extension that would allow you to sync settings between one running instance of VS Code on one machine and another one. It's now in the release version of VS Code. So I turned that on before I started the stream, and I wonder if something's gone awry. I don't quite know why that would have gone awry, but it looks like something's gone awry. But I have enabled it, and yes, you're right, Kim, it is in preview. But I've taken the bold step to turn it on because it's quite a useful feature. Okay, I think so. I've now got it syncing between 3 machines. I have it syncing between the running instance of my live streamed VM, VS Code running on my Mac, and VS Code running on my day-to-day Windows machine. So it's 3-way syncing happening now. 5 followers. Oh, thanks, B. Gustaf. I do want to be famous. It's my ultimate goal of this stream. But yeah, I'm not going to buy followers, I'll be honest. I'm more than happy with the followers that I have. Thank you very much. I'll let one of the mods deal with that. That would be good. Okay, so I'm going to close VS Code here in the hope that that fixes something over here. So where I was going to go, having fixed that, beautiful, thank you, Maurice. Having fixed that, let's just see if this is still asking for permissions. That's still asking for permissions. That's very, very strange. I'm going to discard it. I don't think when I don't know. So where I was going to go instead, or next, was to attempt to finish up some of the items that were left in the converting Cake.net version detector over to use Cake.Recipe v2. And there's a PR that Kim put into the docs repository, and into the docs section of Cake.Recipe I want to get merged in. And I just see that there's an update on this one. So, oh, okay, that's fine. I read that over on my other screen. Okay. Did you get clone in an admin? It wasn't. So there's no Git repository here. It was. I'll show you what I've got here. This is literally on almost every machine that I am ever involved in. I have a temp folder, and I'll have a something -test folder. So whatever I'm working on, I'll have a test folder, and I come back to this routinely when I want to test something out. Hence the test. So the folder that I've got open in VS Code isn't a Git repository. It's literally a few loose files that are a build.cake file and the bootstrappers. So there's no Git repository involved in this now, because normally I do what Kim is alluding to there, or Maurice is alluding to there, that I clone in a admin repository, or an admin PowerShell, which I know is frowned upon. It's just easier. But in this scenario, it's not that one. Do you want to Do you want to ban that spamming user from your chat? Yes, I think that would be good. Yes, I don't think there's any need for that sort of comments coming through in the stream. So yeah, feel free to ban away. That would be great. Beautiful. Oh, got a note there saying it's been banned. Right. So where we're going to go is I'm going to go to that pull request that Kim created, and I'm going to get that merged in. And Nils has been working on a PR as well, which is looking really good. I was going to ask you a question about, are you planning, Nils, on adding a teamcity.md? Or rather, not adding. Are you planning on extending the teamcity.md, or would you want to do that later? I mean, I'd be happy to merge it in with a kind of a to-do comment, because what I'm trying to say is we don't need to have the full documentation before we merge it and get it shipped. If we're just waiting on TeamCity, we could always do that later, is what I'm getting at. So if you wanted to, I know you mentioned consolidating the commits into a single one. If you wanted to go ahead and do that, we can get it merged and then come back and finish off the TeamCity one. So I can say that it definitely does work. Internally, we've got a TeamCity server for certain things. So running the equivalent of Cake.Recipe on TeamCity does indeed work. So if you wanted to let me know what sort of problems you're running into, we can discuss that offline if you like. But this PR is shaping up really nicely. It's got lots of nice information about how you set up individual CI systems with Cake.Recipe in mind. So whether you're using GitHub Actions, AppVeyor, Azure Pipelines, it's got information set up with how to do all that. So it's a really good addition to the docs. I'm really happy that it's going in. To have it fully functional, you may have to do additional configuration though. So the only one that's springing to mind would be the potential for it doing a shallow clone, so it not including all of the commit history locally, which would prevent Git version from working correctly. I don't recall having to change any settings in that regard in my internal setup, which is using Git version as well. But yeah, we can talk about that offline, Nils, if you wanted to. But anyway, Kim's PR here was, I had a quick look at this before we came on the stream as well. So I had checked this out. This was a great catch by Kim here, noting that the little green GitHub icon at the bottom of the documentation window wasn't fully clickable. So that was a great suggestion. And that was a syntax change. So I'm going to say that this was good to go. Oh, yes, that could well be it. Yes, because CodeCov would require the token because it's not app there. Okay, that's. What did I say? It's greeny blue. Hold on. I don't think I'm colorblind. Let's have a look. It's greeny blue, isn't it? Oh no, it's more blue than green. Yeah. So to illustrate my point, now that I can't tell what colors are, if you try clicking here, the link to GitHub doesn't work. But if you click on here, the link to GitHub does work. So the change that Kim has included there will make this entire div clickable. So let's go back to getting this merged. Then this is going to doc fixes and develop. Okay, good. So I'm going to say here, and I'm going to say this one, and I'm going to say this one, and this one. Okay, that's done. Oh, really? Oh, hold on. Oh, so it is. How did that happen? Oh, it's over here. This is the problem. Let's move this back in. My bad. There we go. Let's try that again. Over here. So over here, this button here, if I click here to the right hand side of the word GitHub or to the left hand side of the word GitHub, you'll see that it's not going anywhere. But if I click on the word GitHub, then it goes off to the right place. So that's been fixed. I said that a couple of minutes ago, but he did not want to listen. Which part? What did I miss? I'm not seeing any messages from you, Maurice. Oh, you did? Regarding? Oh, so you did. Apologies. Completely missed that. So the reason for that, if you care, when I do some of my other screen recordings, I don't have this chat window on the right hand side of the screen. So I extend my VM out past that so that it occupies that free real estate. But I have to remember to change it back again, and I didn't. So. But we're sorted now. Thank you very much. Right, so we did that. Minor fixes to documentation. I don't think we need release notes for that, so let's just leave that. Or can we assign it to? We don't have like an internal refactoring one. Let's just put it in anyway. Milestone. There we go. Right. Never heard of artificial intelligence. It has come quite far. Right, where do we get to? So that's been worked on by Nils. Like I say, if you're happy to get that consolidated, we could get that merged in tonight. If you want to do that. The other things that I wanted to look at were twofold. So I'll give you a bit of a heads up on this, Kim. Cake.net version detector is broken currently. The build is currently broken, not because of the changes that we made for Cake.Recipe, but because of the unit tests that I have for Cake.net version detector. The turns out there is something that is Windows specific in there, and in the previous stream, last week's stream, Kim mentioned that what we need to do is change those unit tests to have potentially a Windows specific one and a non-Windows specific one. And my question to you, Kim, is: do you have an example of that in some of your repositories that we can look at, or what do I need to do? Because I'm assuming that they're going to use like a Windows fact to prevent the unit test running on specific operating system. So if you had an example of that, that'd be great. If not, we can get back to that. The other thing I did want to do though was okay, cool. Cool. The other thing that I was going to do was the reduced bootstrappers for running Cake.Recipe. We didn't include those in the pull request that went up last week, so we need to get that done. So that's what I was going to do first. So in here, under organizations, under Cake.contrib, Cake.net version detector, this one, if we have a look in here, so currently, although we've made all these modifications to use .NET Core version of Cake.Recipe, we're still using the full fat .NET framework when we run the build.ps1 and when we run the build.sh. So what I want to do is I want to replace those with the stripped down version of the bootstrappers to run the .NET Core runner for Cake using the .NET Global tool. So the example that I was going to use was if we go over to GitHub, Cake.contrib, Cake.t4. I was going for T4 and I got, I don't know what I got there, T4. Then the stripped down version of the bootstrappers that Kim suggested is in here, I think. So it's much smaller. For anyone familiar with the bootstrappers that come from the resources repository in Cake just now, there's a lot more words in this file and in this file here. Now, to talk about this a little bit, so okay, I spoke to Kim about this offline, but basically, the new guidance going forward, as of last month before, when you get started with a new project on the Cake repository, Cake documentation website, the guidance is to use the Cake.tool and to use a tool manifest to start your build process. Now, previously, we would have had documentation in here that said, reach out to the resources repository, grab the latest bootstrapper, and use that. So the new guidance is to use a much more streamlined approach, which is just .NET Core, .NET Tool Restore, .NET Cake, essentially. Now, Kim brought up the point that if we don't have an official bootstrapper, we should probably stick with the full .NET Framework bootstrapper, and it's perfectly valid. But at some point, we're going to have a Cake official build bootstrappers for running .NET Core global tool. We don't have it yet, so in the interim, I'm going to suggest that we use this for Cake.net version detector, and then at some point switch over to whatever the official example from the resources repository is going to be. Be careful with that bootstrapper. It does not work exactly as I want. It doesn't return the correct exit code. In the PowerShell version or in the this one, or do both of them suffer the same issue? So what's happening here? Run. Start process. Wait process. Exit code. Okay. So meaning that it also, I modified it in Cake.7zip. There was no output at all in the app there. It ignores the call to exit, at least in PS Core. Interesting. Okay. So I think I still want to make the change. So let's make the change, and then we can come back. So I want to say we've done it, and then if there are issues, we can work on that. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't switched it over. And I do like the idea of consistency between AppVeyor using the .NET Global Tool version of Cake and GitHub Actions using the .NET Global Tool version of Cake. So I want that consistency. So I want the bootstrappers to be running the same tool. Whether they report the same thing is a different issue. So yeah, that's my stance on it. So I'm going to stick with that. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this into here. That's not going to work, obviously, because I'm in insert mode. But if I paste that in, that's there. And then in here, I'm going to copy that and go to my build.sh. And I'm going to put that in. Okay. So I wanted to do that. Build, switch to running .NET Global Tool. Let's do that. And push origin. And the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to go through the okay. Oh no, it copied them over. So it automatically changed it to spaces. So I'm good. Good with that. The other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to look at the issue that we have and make sure that we've done all the things that are on the list for this repository. So if we go over here, let's see, that's less than useful, useless. Change Cake.Recipe preprocessor directive to use latest version. So we did that. So what we may want to do is have the pull request open .NET version detector. Make sure that we've done all the things that are on the list. Pull request here. This one. Changes. Okay. So in the, let's find it, recipe cake file. It's in here somewhere. Okay, so that part was definitely done, obviously. So we did that. We see this part will be done, but it won't be done now, because previously we would have used the packages.config file to do that. But we're not going to use that anymore going forward, because we're going to use the .NET Global Tool version. So what we need to do instead is remember what the command is. So we go over here to getting started and we look at setting up a new project. Yes, exactly. exactly that. So I'm going to do this, copy that, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do this, which is going to be 0.38.4. So rather than using the packages.config file to pin to a specific version of Cake, we are going to do that instead using the tool manifest file, which these two commands will create for us. Okay, so having done that, if we go back into here, we should have a new .config folder that has the equivalent of our packages.config file, which is here. So for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to go ahead and delete everything from this folder, including the packages.config file. And yes, I was aware of that, yes. Or .NET. So I don't have .NET 5. Hi, Matthias. I don't have .NET 5 installed yet. I haven't made that leap. So, but I do have .NET. I do have 3.1 installed, so I'm good to go. .NET 5 still in preview, so we're not even going to go. We're not even not even thinking about it yet. Packages.config. So I want this appvar.yaml file to be updated to no longer use this. I'm going to use .config. I've just forgotten which one it was. That's /. So we're going to use .config / .net tools.json. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then any other mention. So this exclusion was specifically in my gitignore file. I was specifically excluding the packages.config file from not being ignored. That's no longer needed, so I'm going to take that out. So in here we should have a few changes. That, the addition of that, and that removed. Okay, so we're going to do switch to use .NET Global Tool Manifest. So let's commit that. And let's have a look at our build.ps1. See what that does. Did you remove the single quote? I don't know. Let's have a look. Appvar.yaml file. Single quote. What single quote? Oh, it's not going to work, is it? How do I? History. Did you remove the single quote? Yeah, there. Compare this one. Will it bounce or will it break? I don't see a single quote in the diff. So I don't think I've broken anything. Okay. So potentially this is not returning the exit code to appvar the way we want it to, but we will be running the same thing in. We will now be running the same thing in GitHub Actions. So I feel better about where we are. So rather than using full-fat.NET Framework with the version of Cake.Exe, we are now running the same tool both locally and in CIs. So I'm feeling better about that. RC1 released today, which has a go live license. Oh, interesting. Okay. That still doesn't, yeah, no. I have too many other things. Too many other things that are preview on machines. So let's not. I'm not going to muddy the water with that one. Not yet, anyway. I need to talk to you, Matthias, at some point about fixing Kudu tool that we've got on the back burner because Kim's found an issue with it. I need to talk to you about it. I'm shipping .NET 5 code to prod. Look at you go. That's impressive. I'm not. So while we're waiting for this build, I'm going to switch back to here, and where did that issue go with the list of things in it? This one. So we pinned to there. We removed the input parameters are no longer required. We did that. Update Bootstrapper to include the bootstrap command. So we did that as a result of copying and pasting what Kim has done in. So we run bootstrap. Now in the next version of Cake, this won't be needed at all because there's going to be an implicit bootstrap operation just by running Cake, either Cake.exe or .NET Global Tool version. So this won't be needed at all. So it'll literally be .NET Tool Restore, .NET Cake. That's coming to a Cake version 1.0.0 to you soon. Oh, because we're running out of process. I see what you're saying, Nils. That is indeed a problem that we need to fix, but I still feel better about them using the same tool. So lack of logs is indeed a problem, but yeah, that needs to be fixed at some point. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Matthias, do you have any working bootstrappers that are just doing .NET Core Store and .NET or .NET Tool Restore and .NET Tool Run? I would like to recommend something to adding. If you have added GitHub workflows for building your add-in, then disable listening to pull requests on AppVeyor. Yes, this is mostly due to Dependabot and the Cake add-in discoverer. This can be done by going to your AppVeyor add-ins project settings and do not build on. Oh, so that's not something that we can put into the AppVeyor YAML file, Kim? Is that that I would have. Can we not do that? Oh, that is somewhat annoying. You can only disable feature branch builds there. Okay, so is that part of the documentation PR that Nils is putting together? If it's not, if we can get that added into this PR Nils in the AppVeyor section, that would be great. So what's in here just now? Yeah, I think it would be good to have a note in here under specifics. If we can add a note, if we can change this none to what Kim's put in there, which is go to the project settings and then click the do not build on pull request events. If we can get that added, then we can merge this in. So I see that you've condensed it into a single commit. So if you do that slight change, we can get that pulled in. That'd be great. I'm going to finish going through my list that I've got here. So we did that. We switched to an embedded icon. We used the new Cake.Contrib.guidelines for doing that. We enabled the deterministic build. We changed that. We didn't find that with any changes to Git version required for this project, but you other folks will find that. We added that. We removed the use of the new spec files, which we did. We changed that to be true. Fairly sure we did. So on recipe.cake, we did. We checked for usage of should run code cov. We took that out because it's no longer required. We did that. We added a settings.json file. I think we did. Settings.json file, which updates, switches over to use ROSM analyzers, etc. We added a dependabot. I think we did that. So over here, is that in a GitHub folder? No, we haven't done that. So I will get Nils's one just now. So how is this different to what's in Kim's one? Let's have a look. Let's do a what's different here? Okay, so we're using. Oh, so that's similar to how the existing bootstrapper does it with. Rather than using start process, it's using invoke expression and then capturing the last exit code and then exiting that. Okay, we can try that one. Build, switch to IEX. You should update your CI/CD. That's on my list, Maurice. It's on that. It's on the list, but it's a little further down the line. But the same thought had occurred to me as well. Stream 100, indeed, yes. Stream 100 is going to be your good self. So I don't have a dependabot file in here, but I see that Nils does. So I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to put in a new file here called dependabot.yaml. I'm going to put that in there. So did that. We added GitHub Actions. We added some GitHub Actions. Kim had other ones that we spoke around, but it's got the main build one there. I think based on some conversations, I don't think this needs to be. I don't think as many steps are needed anymore. Is that correct? I saw some conversation between Nils and Kim regarding this side-by-side steps aren't needed anymore. If we just say 3.1, it should work, correct? I have also added even one more workflow for automatically adding table of contents to the README. I can't keep up with you. So is that on, where have you done that so I can show folks that one? Is that, which repository is that one on? GitHub Cake. Is that going to be on like on CodeCov, the one you've been playing with just now? Transifex. Okay, I was close. Transifex. I can't spell Transifex. Transifex. So have a look in here and in. Let's just see if these are the same. What's this? Dependabot creates pull requests. Huh. Guess that was the same, right? Dependabot, you get daily, core, GitHub Actions directory. Beautiful. Okay. So then in GitHub, workflows. Sorry. Love it. So this has been simplified somewhat. So I'm going to steal this as the basis and I'm going to remove the stuff that we don't need, because there's some Transifex specific stuff in there I could see. So let's do this. So now I noticed that Nils changed this to be the manifest file rather than the recipe.cake file. So do we have a good consensus over what this should be? Or can we combine it? Should we do the recipe.cake file and or the manifest file, or should it just be the manifest file, etc., etc.? So we don't need that, or that. Some of these things. So this is where Kim is starting to pull in the GitHub secrets that I set up the other day. So this would allow him to do a publish from GitHub Actions rather from AppVeyor. So if that is something that you are interested in, then you could start to pull these in. I'm not going to do that just now. I'm going to come back to that. So I'm going to take those out. So what's that? Note, the GitHub package repository token is removed from that build script. Couldn't get the pushing to work there. Okay, interesting. No need to have the manifest file. It isn't restored to the tools directory. It isn't restored. But I thought the trigger, is this not the key for what makes it? I mean, the rest, I'm not sure if I understand that. No need to have the manifest file. It isn't restored to the tools directory, and the only one that is needed is to hash the recipe.cake file since it loads the package from NuGet. I think I'm okay with that. So what's left in here then is uploading of the artifacts. Now that's necessary because the GitHub Actions build provider that we have doesn't have a mechanism to push artifacts directly, correct? So that's why we need this additional section of the build.yaml file. So I'm going to say save that, and then I'm just going to build, simplify, no, we'll get there, simplify workflow. And the other one I want to look at while I was there, the reason I came over here, which was to look at the workflows and to look at Kim's new table of contents YAML. Table of contents generator. Update TOC, readme. So this is going to create a PR. Interesting. This is going to create a PR when the table of contents of the README gets changed by a modification to the README to include additional information. since there's no public API to the upload artifacts. Okay. And there's no mechanism through service messages or the equivalent of service messages to upload artifacts. Is that correct? It will commit directly. Okay. So I'm curious as to what the PR title is then. What's the, or is that just the way that you set it up? But for running on pull requests, it will create another PR to update a PR into the PR. Oh, interesting. Okay, I see. I like the idea of this one. I do like the idea of that one. I'm not going to put it in now for the same reason that I haven't put some of the other ones in. Because I want to go through and understand all the stuff, all the magic that you're doing with GitHub Actions. So I'm going to leave the build in, and I'm going to come back to consolidate in some of these in and get it working. So we did that. Add GitHub Actions, we simplified that. We switched the Cake tool, we did that, and we updated the bootstrappers. Switched to not running PRs on AppVeyor. So this is the one that we need to do in the AppVeyor settings. So you'll be proud of me, Maurice. I'm not going to do that on stream, just in case I leak something. But if I go over here and look at my AppVeyor settings on here, so what Kim said was, in the projects, do not build on pull request events. Do not build on push events. Do not build on pull request events. I'm going to click that button, and I'm going to say save. So I've done that on my the .NET version detector settings. I'm wondering. You have indeed told me well. Hey Stevie, how's it going? I think that setting is one of the things that I could set globally for the Cake Contrib project on AppVeyor. I think that's one of the settings that I could add into the synchronization process that we have. I may have to take that look at whether I can do that. This check here should be fixed. Kim put in a PR to fix that, so that should no longer be required. It's maybe good sense still to put it in, but it's a good thing to check for, but it's not strictly required anymore. Ensure targeting of, we did that. Ensure AppVeyor build images latest, we did that. We need to fix the broken unit test, we're going to come back to that. Fix multi-targeting platforms, did that. Update bootstrappers to use .NET Global Tool, did that. Update AppVeyor to bust the cache rather than the packages.json file. I think we did that. It's one of the things that yes, I did do that. I did that today. So in here, we switched that over, we did that. Delete packages.config file, did that. Update gitignore, did that. And then this is one that Kim added just today, was to make sure that there's a call to environment.set variables in the recipe.cake file, this one here, because that wasn't strictly needed before, but I now remember that global we changed that, so that will be required now. Yes. Yeah, so to reiterate the question there from Nils, is there a reason we're not building PRs on AppVeyor? What that comes down to is, so at the minute, I don't actually know how many we've got, or if I can find a number, but there's something like 200 projects on AppVeyor, and what we're suggesting is that this thing here, the addition of the dependabots YAML file, that will trigger updates, PRs into the project when add dependency changes. Now, if that is the .NET framework unit test thing project, that means potentially 200 PRs going in simultaneously into AppVeyor. Because of the open source plan that we have with AppVeyor, that means we get one build agent, one concurrent build. So let's say that takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes to complete consecutively. That is 200 projects, 2 to 3 minutes for each one, all updating and then running on AppVeyor. In GitHub Actions, we get simultaneous. I think we get simultaneous runners. So the inclination is to not run PRs in AppVeyor, but run them in either, depending on how you're set up, run them in Azure Pipelines or run them in GitHub Actions, and basically not flood AppVeyor with all of those ones. Still use AppVeyor for doing the build on the develop branch and the master branch, or if you've changed it to be main, on the main branch, but just don't run PRs anymore. Basically, yep. Did you know a user org only has X amount of minutes in GitHub Actions and that 1 minute of macOS will cost you? I did know that there was a limit, yes. Correct, Nils. So that's not specifically needed for use of Cake.Recipe in general, but rather for essentially, yes. Because of the sheer number of projects that we have in Cake Contract now, yes. I did know that, so I knew that there were limits around certain things, yes, but I think what Kim's saying is correct. I think you might be running into that limit potentially in your other project because of where it is just now. Maurice. Okay, so having made all of those changes, I now need to go scroll back up a little bit. I'm gonna. So I've got a copy here of I'll bring this into the stream so that we can see it. This is an example of the table of contents change that Kim's new workflow is doing. So basically, there were no table of contents before. Then it went ahead and added in a table of contents using the markdown headings to create that full structure. It's pretty cool, actually. I like that. I do like that. There's a new comment at the bottom here, which is, oh, perfect. Now, having enabled that, my new PR currently won't work anymore, but that's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to scroll back up in the chat here to find the link that Kim had about unit tests, because we need to fix the unit tests on my tests. So if I go over here, so currently I have some unit tests failing on Mac and Linux, but it works on Windows. So in my tests project, let's see if I don't have any of those. So for completeness, I think I will put both of those in. So I'm going to add a new folder here called attributes. So what Kim is suggesting is we create a new Unix theory attribute.cs. I just sneezed. I hope I muted the mic before that flowed through. No, we're not doing that. If I wasn't on stream, I might have, but the unit tests failed in the last stream, so we have to fix them. That was only a quick fix. It could probably be more general. So let's do another class here, which is Windows theory attribute. .cs. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put this into, oh, let's not do that whole thing. Copy this part, just replaces this one. Perfect. And then the Unix theory attribute, I'm going to borrow this. Why did that not give me my namespace? Little strange, but I'll work with it. Copy. Move this over a bit. Let's do that. But I got it on one of them. That's what I'm saying. So some magic happened somewhere. I think I don't know. Copy. X unit. Did I do two different things there? I wonder if I did a new class and a new file. I think that's maybe the difference. Anyway, moving on. So now that I have those, and why is that? Oh, I've got an extra. That's why it's yelling at me. Better. Okay. So one of my tests, which is over here, it is Windows specific because we found that it had C temp. Don't judge me, right? But that's what we have, right? C:// So how many of those are there? So that's some commented out code. That's fine. Don't need to worry about that. In this fixture, that's where we set it up. Might have to do something different there. But my inline data has got, but even says on Windows. If so, we want to replace this with Windows theory. Windows theory, is that what we called it? That will need a inclusion, that's why it's failing. That one. Beautiful. So that's that one. So we fixed that one. And then Windows theory, that one, assert.equal. So this will fix the test. Should say extended on Windows. Oh, that's a fact. Can I use the same theory as, I don't think I can use the same theory as fact, can I? Do I need a Windows fact? I'll wait for a response on that one. I think I do. For conditional unit tests, so this one doesn't currently have a, that's why it's a fact rather than a theory, because it doesn't have any, it doesn't pass anything in. So what would you have me do here then? Pester has a test drive in it that automatically points to a temp folder on your local drive. I'm trying to think. But when you have a test that should only run on Windows, then it's conditional. So replace. I don't think I'm disagreeing. Windows theory. But then I need to pass something in. Shouldn't I? Is that what it's yelling at me for? Theory methods must have test data. So so we would pass in this then. So we would change it to be, where's my other example? Inline data, that's what I'm looking for. Yes, that's where I was going. So copy inline data, string expected. Cut. No, it didn't work. Oh. Expected. Seriously. So we only got one. So we put that in there. Okay. Change the path string to be like yes. You could, of course, create a Windows fact attribute as well. I think it would be. I think you're right. I think in terms of what we're asserting here, we can do it like this. So in theory, if I come down here and run my build.ps1 again, then all of this should work, he says. But yeah, going back to Pester, Maurice, yes, I think I was aware of that because I've used it in the past. The distinction here, though, is that. Is there a distinction here? So Cake itself has a concept of faking out the file system. So Cake itself mocks out the entire file system when it runs its own unit tests. For this particular test, I am asserting I want to run a tool and provide it the expected. Well, I'm not even running the tool, am I? Not yet. I'm not. I haven't got an integration test. So it's not. This isn't actually touching the file system. That's where my fixture comes into play. So I have a fixture that controls what that file path would be or should be. But this is what I think I need to change and make it specific. There's some additional work here to get these unit tests, this particular unit test, to work in both Windows and Linux, or Windows and non-Windows. But for now, this should fix the unit tests. But there's additional work to be done. So something like test drive the equivalent of something like test drive might be useful, but at this point, it's not actually touching the file system. These are unit tests on the constructed set of arguments that would be passed to the tool, not in actually hitting the file system yet. So let's just wait and see if these unit tests pass locally. There's no reason that the unit tests pass locally unless we broke something else. And if that works, I should be able to push it up. The pull request build shouldn't run anymore because, well, we've just switched that setting off. But if we go to our GitHub Actions, or not that one. Oh, but we have to go to it on my local one, which we found out last week as well. So over here on .NET version detector, the GitHub Actions should be running, and the GitHub Actions should currently be failing, which they still are. Good. Okay. Okay, good. So we'll do another commit here, which is all of these good things. We'll say build, fix, unit tests, more work required here, but that will be another day. Save that. Git push origin. What has what? Matthias. Cake.testing.xunit has what? The theories? Is that what you're referring to? I don't know. Does it? Is that what you're talking about? The theories? GitHub.com. Cake build cake. Source. Cake.testing.xunit. It would appear like it does. uget.org. Cake.testing.xunit. Oh, interesting. Okay, so in theory, we could use those rather than include them directly. Okay, let's maybe come back to that. Let's see if the build works, and if it does, we will tinker with that. I seem to remember that this was a reasonably new thing. Yeah, this is reasonably new. Or is it? Hold on. 8 months ago. So, in the scheme of Cake, it's reasonably. We made a decision, I think, to ship it. We never used to ship that NuGet package. We used it internally, but we never shipped it. But looks like we did make that change. Okay, well, we'll tidy that up, assuming the build works. So over here, what's it doing? Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Oh, did it work? Oh, look, it did. I think it worked. Lots of scrolling. Lots of scrolling. You know what? I'm going to scroll to the bottom. I see some unit test output there. I saw it. Look at that. Gasp. I think it worked, folks. Oh, built on Mac OS as well. Is it going to build on Windows? The one that was working, is it now going to build on there too? In theory, a Windows theory? In theory, since the only problem is the root path, or so it seems, maybe instead of hard coding the path, something along the lines of path get path root environment.system directory should work. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, part of me is happy just to get the build working with Windows. So, so now that we've added it in, I think at the very least we should switch to test using the other NuGet package to see if we can use those attributes rather than the two that we added in and get that working. If it does, then I'm going to, I think, merge this in and test the build on AppVeyor as well, because the AppVeyor build should no longer be running, correct? So over here on Cake.Contrib, on this one, yes, it hasn't run again, which is what we wanted. Where's this getting to? .NET Core build type. So it's, oh, this build will take longer because the Windows build runs Dupe Finder and Inspect Code. Those tools aren't run on Ubuntu and Mac because that tool isn't supported on these systems. So what we'll find is that down here, why don't I see them? Oh, it's right there. I couldn't see if we're looking. Dupe Finder was skipped and Inspect Code was skipped. So both of those were skipped because they don't run on that operating system. Yeah. So it's not unexpected. But I mean, this is still it's the same old thing that we think we've spoken about before, is that we get annoyed now that the build takes a minute longer on Windows compared to on, but still the build has just happened or happening on 3 different operating systems at the same time in a fully hosted environment that we don't have to worry about. So it's, back in the day when I first started development, this was magic. This would never have happened. So I'm still okay with the fact that Inspect Code takes slightly longer to run than on anything else. So I'm still good with this. Do they got? Yep, everything is now switched over to running .NET Global Tool of Cake, running the pre-release version of Cake.Recipe, all .NET tooled, global tooled up. So very close, very close. Just run asleep. So yeah, so the point that Kim's making there, Matthias, is a valid one. So it is running the .NET Global Tool version of Cake. When you run Cake.Recipe with this, it will prefer using the .NET Global Tool version of the utility tools that the Cake.Recipe uses. So running on this, it will prefer the .NET Global Tool version of Git version. If you were running the other build.run here, it would install the full .NET Framework version of Git version. If there are utility tools that only work under full .NET Framework, such as Dupe Finder, and so where it needs those things to be running with the .NET Framework installed, it will make an informed decision about running those tools. So that's why they were skipped on Mac and Linux, because those tools don't run there. So it will make informed decisions about what it can when it can. Why is that? What's that red there? I see greens everywhere. Oh, there we go. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so let's fix what we spoke about. So if we go up to our unit test project here and include let's do this. cake.testing.x unit. Was there a version 33? Oh, there's not. So that would be good reason to bump this. You spoke about this last time, I think, Kim, where you used a different version of cake.testing compared to cake.core. Or did I make that up? Because someone said they were doing that. Was that you? I don't necessarily want to bump the cake version just because I'm bumping cake.testing. I'm just going to open up what Maurice's. It's a free cross-platform solution, platform command line tool. Interesting. It wasn't when I first started using it. So what is the... I'm fairly sure we exclude that specifically because of Dupe Finder. Yeah, we specifically skip it because it's not Windows. When did that happen? Run ReSharper command line tools. When was this? It got modified a week ago. That gonna need to switch that over. Oh. If you have .NET Core 3.1, which we will have, oh, we're gonna have to change that then, Kim, aren't we? I think we're gonna have to add in. Do I hear a new issue? You do indeed. You feel like creating an issue, Maurice, to switch over to use the .NET Global Tool version of the JetBrains command line tools. We're totally doing that. I'm making a horrendous assumption at this point that the command line arguments are exactly the same. I would like to think that they are. Okay, no worries. No worries. If the support. Okay, so one thing at a time. So we need to fix. Yeah, okay. So there's a few. It's not just it's not as simple a change. So going back to this. Yep, I use the latest version of Cake.testing, but holding Cake.core at 33. Okay, so let's do this then. So let's do 38.4 of both the Cake.testing and Cake.testing.x unit. Let's remove my two attributes that we added in. Let's remove those. And then in my tests, this should now fail unless it's also called Windows Theory in Cake.testing. Was it called Cake.testing? Do I have it open over here? Can't remember. Source repository. source testing Windows Theory. It was called that. Oh look, my name's even on here. Maybe we should have known about that. Never mind. Let's build this again. See if this works. Let's see what's happening over here. So we update the references, remove those. I'm going to say switch to cake.testing.xunit. Uh-oh. What do I need to do to tell it to stop that? Does cake.testing have a dependency on cake.core? It does. So that's not going to work. Why do I have a reference to cake.core in my unit test project? Do I need it? Here. It's because of the file path and the log. That's not going to work then, is it? Or is there a way to tell it to not do that? Or can I just ignore? I'm not sure if I like that idea. I'm waiting for someone to come into the chat room and tell me what the right thing to do here is. Or if I go and have a look at one of Kim's projects, has he done that already? So that's what I was going to do. Is that the done thing? The question was really, is this allowed? Oh, and the package reference itself? Oh, hold on. On as a no, so you're wanted on here. No warn equals. Oh, I see. Because it would come as a transitive dependency. That works too. That works too. Let's see what happens. Building. I'm going to add a note here to talk to Matthias about Kudu. Oh, I didn't take out the attributes. Didn't take that out. No, we did. The only thing. Type our namespace, type our namespace. I'll do that again. Okay, how much time we got left? 22 minutes. If we can get this building, I'm going to go and quickly review Nils's. Nils's? Is that right? Nils, I guess it must be Nils's PR documentation PR in a Cake.Recipe. No, I thought about that as well, Kim, but I think it's under. Oh, no, it's not. I wondered whether that was just Cake.Testing, but it's not. So in which case that will die. So that would be under. I had thought about that in my head. I'd thought about that, but I thought that it would be under the same namespace, but it's not. It's a lot of Nils's. There's a. It's not common over here. Or no, there'd be a few names that would fall under that sort of. The one that immediately springs to mind is like a Magnus. So Magnus's something. So Magnus's PR. Yeah, that works. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. Why am I dying? I hope you didn't die yet. What did I miss? That looks better. You said, then I'll die. Did I? I hope so. I hope not. Can't remember what I said. It's gone. It's gone. Let's jump over to Twitter. And let's back over here and mark this as unread. That'll remind me to do stuff tomorrow as well. Okay, so over here, we're going to do all of these things. So we mess around with the references, we switch the attributes and remove that. Okay, I'm going to say that's good to go because it's building. And I'm gonna push to origin. Let's do it from here. And assuming that that all works, by the way, I'll just merge that PR then when you're here. Which PR? The cake PR? Or which one are we referring to? When I'm here. Am I taking the blame for it, am I? I'm going to create an issue here. Switch to .NET Global Tool for JetBrains tools. As per docs here. Labels. This is going to be an improvement. That's going to go in there. I'll assign myself to that. Submit a new issue. every PR under Cake Contrib and Cake. No. Let's have a quick look here, and let's go back over here. And PR builds. In organizations with large amount of projects like Cake.Contrib, it is advisable to not run pull requests on AppWare if using OSS plan in AppWare to reduce the amount of build time. This change cannot be done in the YAML, but must be done manually in the UI. Go to AppWare settings, do not build. Beautiful, love it. Cache is on recipe.cake. Fine. Good with that. Azure specifics, none. That's off of that as well. Fine. GitHub Actions, specifics, not currently supported. Fine. That's why we added, then we're using this. Fine. And then doing the uploads. Okay, good. I'm going to say that looks good to me because I'd reviewed the rest of them. What's this? Choco install all YOLO. Love it. In the AppWare example, should it also mention the way to skip building feature branches, i.e. branches with open PR so builds won't happen twice? Possibly. I'm going to say that I'll merge this. There's no point in holding this one up, so I'm going to merge this in. YOLO. So this was merged. That's related to this one. So that one is updated here. That one's on 2.0. Okay, cool. Okay. So this one is on me to finish. I basically need to take all of this now and create some documentation specifically for this. And then once that's done, and we switch to the .NET Global Tool for JetBrains, and I speak to Matthias about the other issue, then we should be good to go. Let's make sure that this is still building. We're waiting on the Windows one again. Good. So I wonder if the .NET Global Tool version of those utilities run faster now that they're .NET Global Tool version, because I take advantage of some of the optimizations in. They probably will, yes. But I'm wondering whether they'll be quicker overall, because all of them will use the .NET Global Tool version. So let's close out some of these things. Fix that, or that part's been done. That was transifex. And then over here, ci.appware. I should probably, I'll maybe not merge that PR actually, because what's Kim up to? Kim's doing stuff. I won't merge that PR into .NET Version Detector, only consolidate those into a meaningful commit. So let's not do that. Okay, but how much have we got left? 30 minutes. What shall we do for the next 13 minutes? And what's Kim been up to? What's Kim been up to? Did you just update this one, or is it why is it showing me that one is at the top of the list? This one you've done something to it. Let's have a look and see what you went up to here. So the issue with this one was to do with the execution of the build.sh, where it wasn't working on my Mac, wasn't it? I forget the error that was happening. Did I mention the error over here? We did. Fix calling of interesting. Is that all it was? I'm saying all that was. Is that what it was? There we go. Okay, so that's happy with that. Happy with that. So I think then might finish early tonight then, because kind of a natural stopping point. So in terms of what's left, there is a documentation to be done for switching to Cake.Recipe 2.0. We are just introducing new change, which is to what's this? What's this? Since we are already changing all the utilities that we're being used to .NET Core compatible, then maybe we should also update Cake.Recipe to build with. Oh, yes. No, absolutely. I think we should probably do that, yes. No objections from me there. I think, yes, I think the latter then. If I'm happy to do that, I'm happy to use .NET Global Tool to build .NET Cake. I'm happy to use the .NET Global Tool to build Cake.Recipe, which now fully supports .NET Global Tools everywhere. So yes, happy to go proceed with that. In for example, okay. So I don't want to put a timeline on this, but I would like to think by the end of the week, we're in a position to ship Cake.Recipe 2.0. That's my goal. That's where we're going to get to. So unless some roadblock comes along, or Matthias turns around and says, well, we can't fix this thing that he's got to be on the hook for, I don't know if he's still in the chat room or not, then I think we can ship something before the end of the week, is where I'm thinking about going. So the only other thing that I thought I would mention was, what else was I thinking I was going to mention there? Yes. If you haven't already seen it, there is a webinar coming up in terms of using Puppet and Chocolate together. So if you haven't registered, click the green button here on chocolate.org and come and join us on the 22nd, where Nigel and Raw, we're going to be talking all things puppet and chocolatey. So go to that. Are you going to YOLO 2? I am. I'm going to do it. There's a lot of bug fixes, and as Kim pointed out on chat the other day, how many was it? How many breaking changes did we have? So in the 132 issues, there were 20 breaking changes included in the 2.0. No, hold on. That's not limited it to the milestone. I don't think, yeah, no, it hasn't. How do I get it to filter that to the milestone? That's annoying. Oh, that's annoying. I think the number that Kim had was 15. There's 15 breaking changes in the 2.0 release of Cake.Recipe. And indeed, Rob does know a thing or three about Puppet, yes. There have already been quite a lot of testing done with the current Cake.Recipe, but of course can't catch all the bugs until it reaches. Absolutely. What I was thinking is, I don't know if you've done it recently, Kim, but we should probably trigger, once we get this the JetBrains stuff included, we should probably trigger the integration tests again to see if they're currently failing. We should probably run the integration tests one more time, at least one more time, to see if it runs across all the different OSs that you've set up in here. So that's that. Like I say, I think I'm done. I don't think I've got. I don't think I've got much more I can do in the next 5 minutes. So it would just literally be a case of talking for 5 minutes. So I think I'll call it a night. Thank you all for coming along. I do appreciate it. And as I mentioned, assuming it all works out, next week's stream will be my 100th stream on Twitch. And I'm hoping to bring along guest star Maurice Kevinar to talk about his secret squirrel project that he's been working on, and hopefully be able to showcase that to everyone next week. So hopefully you can tune into that. And yeah, I'm going to say good night. So thank you all for coming, and I will speak to you on the internet. Take care. Bye bye.